We launched the Enablers of Change concept at the APEN conference in Darwin on the 13th of September 2019. So we're celebrating our first anniversary. I know many of you are wondering what the story is behind this story and how we got here today. Hey, happy first anniversary, Denise, and thanks for sticking with me for a year.
Thanks, John, and happy anniversary to you too. It's hard to believe that it's been a year already and that this is our 36th episode. That's 3 dozen, John. Who would have thought?
Ah, so true, Denise. And remember, we did it as an experiment. We weren't sure whether it'd work or not, but we decided to give it a go. That's one of the approaches we've tried to embody. Let's experiment and see what works. Neither of us had done anything like this before, so it was a leap of faith. But instead of typically overthinking it, we tried to take baby steps and use the agile methodology approach of define, design, quickly test, and then analyze how it went. Plus, we wanted to do it on a shoestring budget, as it's really a not-for-profit venture. I'd read books like The Lean Startup by Eric Ries, Scrum, The Art of Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time by Jeff Sutherfield, and Sprint, How to Solve Big Problems and Test New Ideas in Just 5 days. I wanted to trial those approaches, and that was a big part of my setting up the side business, Enablers of Change.
With any new venture, there'll most likely be times of doubt and uncertainty, which is why it's important to be clear about the purpose. So for us, it's wanting to share our knowledge and experiences about extension with other travellers on the journey.
And talking of journeys, Denise, it's always important to choose your travel companions wisely. When I was first dreaming about this adventure, I realised that while I could perhaps do it on my own, it'd be far more fun and probably less boring for the audience if there were 2 presenters. I knew I was looking for someone with similar values, so we could most likely last the distance together. But I also wanted someone quite different from me, so they'd enrich the stories being told and bring their own personality into it. So I was looking for someone similar but different, if that makes sense.
Well, we certainly have a few things in common, John. For starters, we're both involved with APEN, the Australasia Pacific Extension Network, the professional association for extension practitioners in Australia, New Zealand, and beyond. We've both been conveners of APEN international conferences. I looked after the one here in Christchurch, and you did the one in Toowoomba a few years beforehand.
Yes, and we've both stepped up to leadership roles in APEN, though at different times. We both served on the management committee for several years, and I went on to be president for a few years. And you've done a great job, Denise, with the reading brace you regularly collate for the monthly APEN e-bulletin.
Thanks, John. And in 2017, we both helped organise the GFRAS annual meeting in Australia. That's the Global Forum of Rural Advisory Services, and it involved about 100 people from over 30 different countries. For a variety of reasons, it was quite a challenging event to organise and run, but we worked well together. And it was nice for me to be back in Australia, as even though I'm now living in New Zealand, I was born in Australia. But John, you were born in Australia and went to New Zealand for a while. Tell us more about that.
That's true, Denise. I was born and bred in Brisbane, and when I was in high school, I was a keen plant collector. So when I finished school, instead of going to Schoolies Week, I packed my bags and went on a plant collecting expedition to Borneo. Not just any plants, but the carnivorous tropical pitcher plants, such as Nepenthes raja. So it was only natural that I then wanted to study horticulture, but back then there weren't any Australian universities offering degree courses in it. So I packed my bags again and went to New Zealand and completed a Bachelor of Horticultural Science at Massey University. I then returned to Australia and have lived here ever since. How about you, Denise?
That's really cool, John. Well, I was born in Upper Ferntree Gully on the outskirts of Melbourne, but moved to Lockwood, a rural area just outside Bendigo, before I started school. I was interested in science and ended up studying agricultural science at Melbourne Uni, thinking I would give it a go. During the course, I learnt about extension. Stuart Hawkins, one of the authors of the extension textbook, Agricultural Extension by Vanderban and Hawkins, was still a lecturer. And I thought, hey, this is more like it, putting science into action. So I started working in Extension. I ended up in New Zealand in 2002 because of a job opportunity and have been here ever since, John.
And while it might have been easier to record the sessions with someone who lived closer, it's given us a great opportunity to improve our webinar skills. And I confess, I thought it was going to be easier than it was, but we got there in the end.
Yes, and around that time, I just read the book Ish, The Problem with Our Pursuit for Perfection and the Life-Changing Practice of Good Enough by Lynn Ghazali. That really helped reinforce that we just needed to get on with it and to stop seeking perfection. It's better to do something that's close enough than to wait forever for perfection and never achieve anything.
That's right, Denise. And we knew the APEN conference was coming up, so we just bit the bullet and started recording some sessions. We'd already generated a long list of potential topics, as in about 100. We may have also categorized them and color-coded them, but we quickly stopped planning and moved on to doing, finally creating the recordings.
So that's how we got to where we are today. In another episode, we'll talk all about the technology we use, as that's quite a story in its own right. But what we'd love you to do now is, and help us to celebrate our first anniversary, is to give us some feedback about how you're finding these episodes.
So pop over to bit.ly, that's bit.ly, and then /enablers of change, all one word and all lowercase. It should only take a few minutes to complete the survey, and we'd love to hear your feedback.
So thank you so much for joining us on our first anniversary edition. As always, we'd love to hear your thoughts. So please add a comment below this episode and maybe tell us how you found the journey so far with us.
Thanks, folks, for joining us on this Enablers of Change episode. Remember to subscribe if you'd like to know when new episodes are available. And if you liked what you heard, please tell your friends so they too can join the conversation. And remember to fill in our survey, otherwise we're only guessing how you've found these episodes to date. All the best until we meet again.